Right. So today what we are going to do is we are going to discuss
Recording in
barriers of
progress.
communication. So far we discussed all the components of communication process and how it take place. Now you know the process and all the components. So now we know that it's a dynamic process. Our aim is to improve effective communication, targeting a future world of work, right? So for that, we need to understand what are the barriers of communication which hinder or distort communication messages, right? So first thing is you need to understand we can't totally eliminate barriers of communication, but we can minimize them if we know them. I'll start from quoting from Nelson Mandela, visionary leader from South Africa. You all know him. He have said that if you talk to a man in a language that goes to his head, but if you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. So it's stress. So it's highlight one key thing. If you talk to man in a language that goes to his head, that's what we do normally, right? In a language we communicate. But if you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. So here also I'm not doing that one. We are using a foreign language to communicate, right? So language itself work as a then barrier for communication if you when you use a foreign language which is not to your mother tongue, right? So for communication, now you know that what we do is we develop shared meaning. To develop a shared meaning, the message should be very clear. But when you use a different language to communicate that, then it's so difficult to develop the shared meaning, right? So as much as we can, we should use our own language to communicate. But here in university, we are using the mode of delivery is English, so that's why we use English language to communicate. So one thing then keep in mind. So if you learn other languages, it's very helpful, especially for the field like tourism. That's why we learn other languages to communicate with them. So likewise, since there are like language, since language is working as a barrier for communication, there are many other barriers, right? So you need to know that the communication is not always successful. Communication is a kind of platform or a way where we can use it for many purposes, for negotiation, to send messages, for discussions, for many purposes we are using communication, but it's not always successful. Several things prevent the message from reaching the recipient, having the desired effect on the recipient. So we send a message, but most of the time there are several things, many things that prevent our message reaching the target or the destination. It blocks or it distorts the message. We call them problem areas in the communication process. Now you know the communication process. So each and every stage of the communication process, there may be problem area. And other things that can hinder or distort communication is called the barriers of communication. They can block the communication, or else they can amend or distort the communication. They can change our message. So we'll try to understand what are these barriers of communication. The communication barriers can cause information gaps leading to problems in its working. When there is a barrier, then there will be information gap. So these obstacles prevent a message reaching the target receiver. So maybe they may be outside and can beyond the control of the person concerned. Most of the time, it's difficult to control them. It's beyond our control. So we have to understand what are these barriers, and as much as we should try to avoid them, or else we can minimize them. Totally eliminating them can be difficult. For example, you can see in all these stages of the communication process, there are problem areas. If we start from the number one, message conceived. So message can be vague or ambiguous, that's mean not clear, right? It affected by the relationship between sender and receiver. Sometimes messages are not clear. Sometimes at the encoding, if you encode in wrong language or tone, if you use a different tone to communicate, that also can change the message. Also, when you select a wrong medium, or when you select at the decoding process, receiver unable to understand sender's language, vocabulary is too difficult, specialist terms, jargons we are using, especially in subject like science and computer, you are using a lot of jargons, technical words. Sometimes it's difficult to understand by other people. And when we interpret the message, there may be chance of wrongly interpreted. It make an effect on relationship between receiver and sender. And also when you provide the feedback, most of the time we are not giving the feedback, right? So these are the some to get an idea problem areas in each and every stage of the communication process. So what we are going to do is we are going to understand what are the types of barriers. So you should know these types of barriers are available, and you don't need to know all these barriers, because each and every barrier type, there are many other sub barrier types coming under it, right? So for your information, and you should know at least there are 6 types of barriers, namely physical barriers, semantic barriers, language barriers, social psychological barriers, organization barriers, and finally cross-cultural barriers. We are going to discuss one by one. So just remember, you need to know these 6. There are 6 types of barriers, right? So when you remember them, try to remember one single example for each category or each type. If you take first physical barriers, those are obstacles that prevent a message from reaching the intended recipient, maybe outside and beyond the control of the person concerned. We discussed that one earlier also. So there are 3 types of physical barriers. There may be defects in the medium, noise in the environment, as well as information overloaded. Defects in the medium means now to join today's lesson, you may using smart device, smartphone, laptop, desktop computer, tab, whatever it is. If there is something wrong in that device, that is a physical barrier for communication, right? So for example, if you are using headphones now, if the headphone is not working properly, it's a physical barrier. It's a defect in the medium. If the now, for example, defects in the devices like telephone, postal system, failure in electronic medium, whatever it is. So it's a defect in the medium. Then it's a barrier for our communication. You can't hear the message. You can engage clearly to the communication. Also, if there is a lot of noise in the environment, that's not the noise we are identified in the communication process. If you remember, noise means anything interfere communication is identified as the communication process. But this noise, this is environmental noise, right? So for example, now if you are in a crowded place like bus, right? If you're in public transportation right now, if you're in the middle of a petrol queue or a gas queue, I think gas queues are not available now, petrol queue especially, then it's really noisy. So you can't hear anything, right? If you, even though you have logged into the Zoom platform right now, but if the environment is really noisy, you can't hear anything clearly. That's a noise in the environment. You will find this one when you start working, especially in the industry. If the especially in industrial parks or the factories, there are noisy environments, right? So that's why in most of the factories, their offices are soundproof, because outside there is a heavy noise. So then you can do your work in a peaceful environment, right? Even you can make a call in a factory like that. So if there is a noise in the environment, it's a physical barrier for communication, right? So noise during transmission process carried by air, vibration, traffic, factory work, talking. Many more examples are there for the noise in the environment. Also keep in mind, if you pump more information, it's like pumping petrol, right? There is a limit of pumping petrol into a vehicle, right? Now these days they have a limit like 5,000 rupees, but the vehicle itself has, for example, 55 liters only, right? Other than that, you cannot pump. What will happen? Petrol get overloaded. In a vehicle, there are four-seater vehicles, cars normally, right? You cannot put 7 people into that one. Then we say overloaded. Very easily you can recognize these days public transportation, especially bus and the railway. Those are overloaded these days. That's mean going beyond the capacity. Similarly, if you put more information when you talk to someone, even in a lesson like this, if you put more information, if you send more information, then the receiver or the recipient cannot retain them. Too much information. Then the listener cannot remember it. For example, if I say there are 77 barriers of types of barriers in communication, can you remember 77? No. Maybe 6 also will be hard for you, right? So now that's why even in a class, in universities, in colleges, one period is 40 minutes. In universities, we have 50 minutes. We normally say 1 hour to start the lecture and to finish the lectures. From start and end, there are 5 minutes, then 50 minutes of lecture. If you go beyond 50 minutes, you can't retain that one because there is a capacity of the memory. You know this one better, right? Now, you know about the our random access memory working, RAM working, right? So if you go beyond the capacity of the RAM, then things get overloaded. Then the machine or the system is not working. So too much information. For example, now when you watch, today we have a cricket match, is there? Today do we have the test match? Okay, now when you watch the cricket match, between each and every over, there are advertisements, right? For a test match, how many overs per day?
90 overs.
90. Then let's say that we are going to play 5 days. We hardly play against Australia 5 days. But let's say we are going to play all 5 days. Then how many overs? The maximum overs can be both?
450.
450. I think last day they can go 400 overs. Then 460. Then let's say in between each and every over, there are five advertisements getting played. Then think about the number, right? 460 into 5. How much? Science people. You have calculated, right? It's 2,300, right? 460 into 5. Your random access memory is really slow. So that's why I'm going to give you a point. So can you remember then when there are 2,300 advertisements getting played, can you remember one of them? It's information overloaded. That's why in advertising, we play the same advertisement again and again. Advertisement getting repeated. Reason is they clearly know you are being, we called it advertising clutter. Clutter means there are millions of messages you are seeing. Between among all these advertisements, advertisers' target is to remember their advertisement. So that's why they repeat the same advertisement again and again, right? Because too much of information in television. You watch the match, you watch parallelly other programs, and meanwhile, you should see the advertisement. Similarly, sales informations, right? In the marketplace, we are getting millions of messages. So information overloaded is a physical barrier for communication. Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Good. Then next one, semantic and language barriers. Semantic means pertaining to or arising from the different meaning of words or other symbols, right? So in languages we say meaning is in people, not in words. But what we normally do is we remember words with its meaning, especially language like English. පොඩි කාලේ අපි ඉංග්‍රීසි වල වචන වල තේරුම් පාඩම් කරන්නේ. Meaning is, so you think that meaning is in the word, but actually meaning is in people. Reason is we have given the meaning to these words. We have given the meaning. Otherwise, who has given the meaning? So meaning is in people, not in words. Since that, then same word can lead to different meaning. Same word, right? So it depends on the age, education, cultural background, words having multiple meaning, especially technical terms, also the pronunciation and the stress on the word. Similar sounding words, adjectives, adverbs, they convey different meanings. For example, now I'll type here. Can you remember words which has multiple meaning? I'll type one here in your chat box to everyone. If I say in the petrol queue, people say, be patient. Patient has multiple meanings. What are they? Patient කියන වචනෙට විවිධ තේරුම් තියෙනවා. What is the meaning of patient? රෝගියාව ඉවසන්න, right? So when I say be patient, ඔයා ලෙඩ වෙන්න කියලා නෙමෙයිනේ කියන්නේ, ඔබ රෝගී වෙන්න නෙමෙයි. What are the other words you remember like that? I'll type another one. Principle. You know the principle of gravity, right? Principle of gravity. ගුරුත්වාකර්ෂණයේ මුල්දර. Also fair, good, right. Yes, here. Come here, come here. Can you hear me? Same sound, similar sounding words, here and here. What are the other words? Any other words you remember? Fly, yes. Similar sounding words, which has multiple meanings. And also how, when you stress on the word. Now I am time to time asking, can you hear me? If I ask you, can you hear me? That's, I have stress on the word. If I say, okay, now leave the classroom since you have a assessment by 10 o'clock. If I say, leave the classroom, that's same word, but stress on the word, the tone we are using. If you are talking, this is especially happens when you talk in a different tone. Tone right? So when you raise your voice or volume, if you change the tone, so that also make an effect on our communication. For example, now in a petrol queue, you can have that peaceful tone and you can do the job, I think. Right? But in some cases, you need to raise your voice, right? So those are language or the semantic barriers, right? So when you use them, when you change the tone, when you use words which has multiple meaning, you have to be very careful because it can lead to misunderstanding, right? Also, there are symbols with different meaning. This is the last one we are going to discuss. There are symbols with different meaning. For example, this one. Now, when you take, what's the meaning of this one? Peace, okay? Symbol of peace is that. In USA, yes, it's peace. Are you using this one for peace? Yes, yes. Michael Jackson used this one usually. I think in the song Heal the World also they are using this one. Make it better place. How you use this one? For any other symbol? Number 2, okay. What else? For victory. Let's say now Sri Lanka are going to beat Australia. Okay. We cheer using this one for victory. And I'm asking you, when you take girls, especially when you take selfie photographs, why you are doing like this? To say I'm a peaceful one, or you have won something. Selfie photograph. What's the meaning? What is this symbol? You don't know its meaning, but all the other people are to look cute, right? Okay. When you do like this, you appear as cute person, is that? Okay, good. So also keep in mind, in Australia, UK, Ireland, and New Zealand, they believe it has a rude symbol. and also frequently used to signify contempt or defiance towards authority. Now, they can use it for this aragale or the struggle when they protest against something. They show that they signify that defiance towards authority, and they think it's kind of a rude symbol, right? And what is this one? This symbol? When you talk, are you using this one? Can you give me one second, millisecond to discuss this one? Little bit, yes, little bit. In Italy, the symbol is, what is this? Or what do you want? In Congo, sign for a small amount of something. I think similar thing we are using. In Turkey, indicates that something is beautiful. Beautiful. But we are not using this one, right? For beautiful. In Egypt, it's motion to show you will only be a minute, right? So same symbol have different meaning, right? Multiple meaning. I think this symbol, if you do rock or hip hop dancing, I think you are using, even in the Pepsi advertisement, they had this one, I think. So it came from US rockers. Do you know why you want to do this one in rock dancing or hip hop? What's the meaning of or dance karna or hip karna nahi? What's the meaning of that? One thing, rock on. Yes, I'm getting message. Yo-yo, is it? Okay. Also, sign of approval. If you want to approve that one, right? So that's in USA. But in other countries, they have different meanings, right? What about this one? Everything is fine. Anything else? Perfect, yes. But in Germany, it's the symbol for zero. Superb. Yes, superb. So see that different symbols have different meaning, right? So those are barriers in communication, right? So similarly, there are many barriers in communication. So in next class, we are going to discuss them further, right? So today what we did was we discussed about the barriers of communication. Especially there are 6 barriers: physical barriers and semantic, language barriers, socio-psychological, organizational, and cross-cultural. Initially, we discussed about physical barriers, then semantic barriers, and followed by language barriers. The other 3 socio-psychological, organizational, and cross-cultural barriers we discuss in the next class.